Welcome to another episode of Starseed Activations. Welcome, Nancy. Good evening from Minneapolis. Welcome. I'm actually in Pennsylvania, so it's beautiful. Up a mountain, we have creeks all over the place, fresh water, springs. It's gorgeous here. So we're going to hop right into some of the questions today. Now, the first question that came in was, how do we develop telepathy with another person? So, oh, good. Jill's here. I was like, let me see if Jill's here because that was her question. Okay, so how do we develop telepathic communication with another individual? Nancy, if you can hear me okay, just drop a comment because I think the last video, the mic was a little sketchy. So, okay, back to the question. How do we develop telepathy with another person? Now, this is very, very interesting of a conversation because we can do this right now. And so we do not have to wait. Many times the natural process of evolution, where the species as a whole, the telepathic starts to activate, is when people become very excited. When a person becomes very, very excited in whatever their highest passion is, their speech starts to become very, very rapid. So just imagine two individuals sitting together and they are having a very rapid communication between the two. And then all of a sudden, it's not fast enough to communicate that information. So what would happen is the telepathy would automatically activate, thus allowing the species as a whole to start to open the extra sensory abilities, which also it's telepathy as well, because we can hear the thoughts, but you can also feel the emotions. Now, there's a whole range of psionic abilities, and I have to tell you guys, from my personal experiences with the Arcturians and my Starman, they can move our bodies. There's so many different things that they can do. It's wild and amazing. They can project their consciousness into insects, and then they can take the insects, they can fly them around the room. They can make orbs. And so in the last video that we did on Tuesday, I believe it was, there was actually an orb in the video. So many times we see orbs and we think that it's, a fairy or some sort of higher frequential being. It can be all of those things, but it can also be a star ship. And the star ship gets cloaked and it gets made tiny, like the movie The Ant-Man. And so they can shrink down their ships itty bitty. They can actually take the entire civilization and blink it into another parallel reality. So it's wild and amazing the things that this realm and this world is actually capable of doing. Now, time and space is an illusion. And so we can start to utilize the biological form to go inside the heart. There's a slipstream in there. It's connected into the Kundalini channel, the center one that's light and dark. And so when we start to play with that, there's different types of particles in the actual heart that connects through time and space. So this is the reason why scientifically, when we're very, very happy, we notice time tends to fly. But when we're very, very sad or depressed, time seems to go very, very slow. That's because of these particles that we have inside the heart. The star people call this the slipstream. Now, for all of my time benders, because this is a real thing, and the second that you start to harness your emotions and you start to change or fluctuate the emotions and drop into that slipstream, you can start to control time as you see fit. Now, I personally have had experiences where we were driving in a car, and it was two cars. The first car, we left so let's just say location A. We all left location A at the same time. So I was in car number 2. Car number 1 went straight home. Car number 2, we stopped at Dunkin' Donuts. We ate, we sat down, we smoked, we were hanging out like kids. And then we got back in the car and we all made it to the house at the same exact time. So what happened? We were both doing 65 miles per hour on the highway. If anything, we were going faster. So we should have made it there faster. But we managed to make it at the same exact moment. So we spent over a half hour eating and chilling. Now, we were also very happy, very high frequency. Now, when we start to utilize the slipstream, we start to dive inside of this and we start to really sit there. Now, you have to place focus and attention on it. So if you guys have one of those old clocks with like the second that keeps moving, you can actually sit here and cast your emotional frequencies at it and try and access the neutrality when you start to access that neutrality, you can start to actually pause time. That's always the first thing that we tend to consciously focus on, is how do we pause time? Because then we can prove that it's real to us. So the second that you see, okay, I paused time, there's also astral gifts. Now, these are wildly amazing, because if you guys start to do things like remote view and astral project, if you are just, and if, let's say, for an example, you don't really like this reality, there is a way that you can pull yourself into the astral realm. You can live an entire lifetime, and then bam, you can wake up in your body like only a moment has passed. So that's real too. We can also go into the astral realm. Is this live audio a little staticky? Let me just try and unplug the mic for you guys. Okay, so just let me know if that's better. So when we dive into the astral realm is going to give us the opportunity to also speak to our spirit guides. There's different guides. There's different soul family members who are in spirit. Now, I want each and every one of you guys to realize that when we are in spirit, your higher self is still in spirit. It's all connected. This is kind of like the heaven realm. Your higher self never leaves, but your higher self can fractalize and put a small fragment of that consciousness or slipstream into multiple physical bodies at one time. Now, I personally have identified my future reincarnation. So I know who she is. She's on the planet. She's doing similar work to what I'm doing right now. Beautiful. Okay, you guys can still hear me. I unplugged the mic. For some reason, I think the mic has been doing that. So when we start to realize that time and space is only an illusion, it's not real. It's something that we can start to control, and we can also go into the astral, and we can do things like program our physical realities through that way. We're opening up a whole new way of living just by stepping into this information. Can you guys still hear me? Because I unplugged the microphone. So just drop a comment in on Facebook. Let me know if you can hear. Okay. Now, when we start to dive into this information, it basically gives us control over the entire simulation. Because the second that you have access to control or program what it is that you wish to experience throughout the day. Now, just think about it this way. Imagine for one moment that you guys were plugged into a simulation device. We know that we have different, head goggles that we put on, and it puts us in a type of virtual reality. Now, what if just allow this thought to come with you? What if we're plugged into a simulation on an extraterrestrial craft somewhere, having this experience, thinking that it's real, but it's not really real, right? So that is another one. It's like mind-boggling. It's like, how would you even know? So when we dive in and we start to go through these different topics, it's like we start to ask questions. Now, of course, nobody really has the question to that one. We just know that there's different levels to the simulation, and the different levels are never ending, because the whole holographic simulation, it fractals out. So just like the seashell fractals out, we're looking at a Fibonacci or a phi sequence. It's a mathematical sequence that's found in every single thing in the holographic simulation, including the math behind the human body. So different types of ancient arts used to also encode different mathematical sequences into their sculptures and paintings. So the ancient people, they knew about this information, which is wonderful, because then we start to see what those guys knew just by having a look at the archaeology that's on the planet today. So we want to also take a look at the pyramids, because the pyramids are built to a phi as well as Fibonacci sequence. So that means that whoever put the pyramids up, they knew that there was a mathematical sequence guiding the entire holographic simulation. So when we become aware, then how can we start to use the number codes with us? So many of us, we wake up to divine synchronicities right away. And the divine synchronicities takes you to the right place at the right time. That's like your guiding posts, is how you know that you're in alignment to experience whatever it is that you are designed to experience. Now, that's also contact and communication from the higher self. So the second that the higher self starts talking to you through the numbers, usually you can drop right into a meditation, and you could start to connect through that 0 point slipstream with the higher self. Now, the higher self will actually magnetically come down and flower and take its seat into the heart chakra. When you start to really allow the higher self to sit in the heart chakra, it puts you on the highest potential timelines so that you can manifest your highest potential reality. Now, your highest potential reality is what makes you happy. So whatever it is that gets you excited. Now, from personal experience too, whatever gets you excited, it's allowed to change. And so one day you can be perfectly excited doing arts and crafts. The next day you might be into metaphysics. Some people are like this. Some people are jack of all trades and they could do many different things and their excitement is ever changing. That's okay too. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to pick in the now moment whatever is going to bring us the most amount of joy and excitement in this moment. And so if this moment you are following your highest passion, then you're doing what you're meant to be doing. It's amazing. That's what I believe in and experienced. What anchors us into this reality? So that's a deep topic, Jill, because when we start talking about how we actually anchor into the physical, the number one thing that anchors us in is the first trauma that we experience. So that moment of birth, it's painful for us, as well as we are epigenetically encoded during the whole time that we spend in the womb. All of the emotions that the mom is feeling while she is pregnant with a child, it all gets encoded into the child and it starts the process of ancestral karma. So that gives us things that we are currently unaware of that we have to handle and we have to go in and we have to heal. So a lot of times when we do the shadow work will feel as if we've done it all, or we've given all this work and we've done all this and we've come so far, and then we don't understand why we're not at a higher level. That's because there's 100 more things to heal. Now, the star people do this to me as well, so I'm not, excluded in this. They're like, you have to do your shadow work. And so there's certain signs and zodiac signals that manifest into our physical reality, and it triggers us in order to get us to release this density. Now, full moons are a perfect example of that, because a full moon sends a frequency that pulses the energetic grids, which then in turn allows us to start handling some of the densities that we're holding on to. So a lot of times when this happens, then it starts to cycle repeat. So this is why there's accidents and all sorts of things. It's because that cycle repeat gets pulsed energetically, which then allows for you to go through your negativity in order for you to clear it. Now, the easy way to do that without having to get into the car accident or any of that is to do the shadow work and go in and start changing the emotion codes. And so having a real physical conversation with your body is key, because when you can sit there, you can ask your body, how do you feel today? Is there any tension, any tightness? How does the inside of your body feel? There's different layers into the body that are it's a miracle to be able to sense them. And it's something that, I've been on this planet a very long time and I had no idea until I was shown. Okay, so on the outside, we know that the energetic grids, it has 3 different layers to it. On the inside, there's 3 different layers as well. These are connected into the Kundalini channels. Now, when we start to do deep meditations, you're going to feel your light body like suck in. And so depending on the degree that light body pulls itself in is going to show you which degree that you're working with in the universal ring systems. So above your head, we've been saying this for a while now, you guys have 3 rings. The first frequency that comes down is your binary codex. That makes up your hair, your eyes, everything to do with your physical form. The secondary ring is your location ring. So who's your primary characters in your hologram? Who's your family? Who's your people? Who do you interact with? Your location is also where do you go? What locations are you consciously aware of? Whenever you start to take a vacation or a trip somewhere new, you're starting to change or modify that location ring. Now, if you guys want to add more vacations in, you have to cast into the location grid. You can cast new locations. You can cast, let's say you wanted to go on a river ride in a boat. And then what you would do is you would drop into the meditation and just imagine the location ring, which is a secondary ring out, and cast a river ride into that. It'll manifest inside your life. That's a solid fact. because this is how it's done. It's all done in the energetics first. You have to be magnetically in alignment in order to receive whatever it is that you are desiring to manifest. So why not encode your energetics and allow your energetics to do it for you? That's the way to get it done very, very rapidly. You can make things like vision boards. Vision boards work because what's happening is you're triggering the brain waves, which are electrical in its nature. It's tied into your chi energetic systems. So you're utilizing the masculine or the logical way. You see it, you think it, you believe it, you're changing your magnetics, and then all of a sudden over time it's going to manifest for you. But what I'm telling you guys is you can go right into your energetic grids. You can start to program things. And this is where your words become key. Because if you are utilizing any words that put yourself down, what's actually happening is those words are going into the energetic grids and it's sticking like a magnet. And then all of a sudden it reflects back to you, and then you have to handle that negativity. So whether or not you're going to go and dive into the shadow work, you're going to clear all of these words that you speak about yourself, or even brain waves, because it's electrical. And so it all gets encoded into your energetics. So when we start to utilize different words, even the word good morning. And so when we mourn something, it's negative. It's not really negative, but it's sadness. It's you're mourning a loss. And so we're utilizing words that we shouldn't be utilizing because it's a negative polarity. So instead of that, what I personally say is I say happy sunrise, sunshine. And I say it on my text message. I use little emojis. And so it's just one way to try and focus your words in a more positive light. Now, of course, there are some people that take that concept to the extreme. That's okay too, because I completely understand why they do it. But let me tell you something. I used to swear like a truck driver, and this is a solid fact. I would always, and it just came naturally to me. Now, of course, there's different TikToks out there that'll tell you that anyone with a high IQ usually doesn't filter the emotions, so they tend to swear a lot. So I'm going to run with that one. But the second I stopped cursing or swearing so much, this was the second other people would curse, and I would feel it. And it would be like one of those empath moments where it rattled me. And so now I look at very, very high frequency people and certain words that are not even curse words, but they're like negative polarity words. It rattles them. And I'm like, that's how you know that that person is a very high frequency. And you have to be very careful around people like that. Now, just imagine walking up to a Buddhist monk and utilizing an improper word. That's what it's like talking to the star people. So a lot of times they let it slip because they know they're trying to raise the frequency and work. But when it gets, pushed to shove, you have to really start cleaning up your vocabulary. And there's a certain degree of professionalism that also comes with working with extraterrestrials. So, yeah. Oh, you just remembered you dreamed last night about a river ride? I don't know why I said that. The star people, they know what you guys do. They know your dreams. They do energetics on all of you guys before. So it's wild and amazing. So always, before you're going to watch one of the videos, just make a note. What did you guys feel? Now, one of the ways that they utilize technology to clean out your energetics, it could feel like a tingly, but it could also feel like a womp, 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 womp. And so that's how you know they're like cleaning out your heart chakra. There's no mistaking it. It's very prominent. You would feel it. So yeah. Welcome, Melissa. You are meant to be here with us. So it's beautiful. Okay, let me see. Let me have a sip. I have this cup. It's called Wild One. My kids were like, yeah, you're the wild one. All you do is eat salad. So funny. Okay. Let's see. Generating a nexus or an instantaneous timeline shift. Now, this is very, very important because timeline shifts are very real. Now, I've been telling you guys for a while, if you're ever in like trauma or tragedy, let's say you're about to get into a car accident or something crazy and time starts to slow, or you start to feel like all the noise starts to get really quiet, even though you see the people moving around you, it's like it's a sense. So that means that you've just stepped into a void, which is the opposite of a vortex energetic. Vortexes are life-giving. A void is the same. It's kind of like a tornado. It comes down and it pulls the energy into the void space, which is a negative polarity. And so when you feel that coming, this is when it's important to drop into that heart space and try and generate a nexus. So a nexus is an instantaneous timeline shift. So when we drop in, we can open up the heart, and then you just drop in and you just imagine that light channel filling with ether or source frequency and just allowing it to fill your body with so much love and light. Now, you can help, and this has to be done very rapidly whenever you start to feel something negative, like a void coming, or it could even be a sense that trauma or tragedy is about to come. So, what was that? Good idea. I was telling the people with me that the ETs had made that part of the river because it looks like it could float backwards. Yeah, that's amazing. Say you turn your phone on at 4:44. What's thinking this? I think I had 5:55 today. It was beautiful. Okay, so when we start to access that slipstream, it starts to allow us to make an instantaneous timeline adjustment. So that's known as a nexus. It's when you are casting in the now moment and taking control of your full frequency. Now, there's no reason that any of us can't go inside and do a massive frequency adjustment and activate the rainbow body of light right now. However, we don't do it because we still have the traumas and the densities and the shades. All of the darkness needs to be washed off of the energetic to allow us to fire off the rainbow body of light. But yes, it is possible. So just knowing it's possible will allow at least one person to get the job done. So we already have people on the planet who are accessing the rainbow body of light. The monks are doing it, except they have to go in a cave and they have to meditate for 10 years and they do the shadow work. So they remove any toxic or lower emotions, any traumas, the birth trauma, all of this stuff they remove. And then they go deep into meditation for days. And then the rainbow body of light fully activates, allowing them to rise into 5D frequencies. That's a beautiful thing. That's what we want to shoot for. But we are also experiencing solar energetic shifts, which are helping us or guiding us in order to activate the rainbow body of light. Now, of course, it's a baby step process. And so we're here tonight. That means each and every one of us are focused on doing this, because the second that you become spiritually aware, there's different levels to the game. There's a level in which you're staying in a human body, but yet you activate your psionic abilities. So you could do things like the extraterrestrials. There's a level higher than that, where you start to generate new worlds, new planets. It all depends on whatever attunements each and every one of you guys has. So whatever advanced extrasensory ability you have an attunement to is what you're going to activate first. That does not mean that that's your only ability, because the human body was designed and created in combination with the crystalline DNA system, the star people are saying, in order to activate 365 human biological / spiritual abilities. Now, what that looks like is we have a sense of magnetism. That sense of magnetism can help us in the physical world to tell our location. Now, we also have astral abilities. Now, there's different crystals in the brain. There's hematite and magnetite that actually vibrate according to the Earth's magnetic grid. And that's what activates our sense of direction. So when we start to place focus and attention on activating different things, we just have to be consciously aware of it, because wherever we place our focus, it adds to the manifestation of that ability. So place your focus on all of them and then see which ones you feel drawn to do. Now, the attunement is kind of like a magnet. So whatever ability that you're consciously focused on, you're going to magnetize into your current reality. That's okay too. A lot of us are dream walkers, and we have yet to figure it out that this is what's happening. So we'll have a dream, and then we'll go and we'll read a dream book to try and pull information about the dream so that we can figure out why we're having the dream. But nobody ever stopped to tell us, hey, maybe you're the one programming the dream, and then that dream that you're programming has something to do with the real life that you're experiencing. So it's a way to shift our perception, which allows us easier access into the dream walking ability. All of us are dream walking every single night. Some people who have blockages in the pineal gland, they may not remember the dream, so they may not be aware of it. But it happens automatically because the higher self steps in, and the higher self can see your entire timeline. So the higher self is like, well, you need to learn X, Y, and Z, bippity boppity boop, bam. And then it gets programmed through the dream time. This is how this works. Now, there's different types of programmings to do with the dream time. So you can program the location grid, which is, let's say, if there's any chaos or distortions happening in the civilization, right? The cycle repeats, goes with history. So 1820, 1920, 2020, there was a big event that happened all those years. And so we start to do the research and dive into the history. It shows us the cycle repeats. Now, we've all heard history always repeats. This is why history is very important. It should be taken with the utmost care and consideration when reading or digesting, because you want to have a look at where is our history? Where's your individual history? Where are your cycle repeats? So if we started to keep a journal and just go with it for one moment. But if you started to keep even a digital journal, so something in the iPhone where you can see, okay, on this day of this year, this happened to me. And then all of a sudden you open that journal 5 years later and you're like, okay, well, that cycle repeat came on this day and this day and this day. You're going to start to notice a mathematical sequence coming before your eyes. You're not going to believe it, but you're going to be like, oh my God, well, this happened and this and this and this. And it's like, it's repeating on the same exact time. According to the zodiac shifts as well, because different zodiac shifts will trigger a cycle repeat. So we also want to have a supercomputer to pull all that information out. Now, the people who built the ancient temples, they knew all this information. And so they used to worship different zodiac alignments because they knew it was either going to bring prosperity or it was going to bring a cycle repeat, or they even knew about the yuga cycles. Now, the yuga cycles is a day and age in which the consciousness raises or the consciousness lowers. And so when we see the consciousness is kind of like a wake cycle and then a sleep cycle. And so I've been telling you guys, it goes like this. It kind of looks like a seed. Right? This is the flower of life. This is how the sleep cycle and wake cycle comes. It's a breath in and a breath out. Everything is duality. So when we start to notice the yuga cycles, we have a bronze age, silver age, golden age, all these different ages, but they're all breath ins and breath outs. And so we take a look on the pyramids and we can see things like helicopters encoded into the pyramid. You could see it. It's an image. Now, with the second we become aware, it's like, oh, well, they knew what helicopters were way back then. So how did they do that? That's because they went through that yuga cycle, and that particular brick of consciousness must always include the helicopter. So when our consciousness is going through it, now, just because I'm sitting here with you guys today, we're about to go into a golden age. But all of the information, we have it in the memory grid complex of the Bronze Age and below. So we have all that information. It's in the histories, all the wars, all of the stuff that they went through. You can see it in different movies. They fast forward through time and space, and we start to see the cavemen and then this and this and this and all these different eras. Before our eyes, we can see it very rapidly. This is part of being in the golden age. Now, the next step for us is going to be quantum computers. Quantum computers is only showing you what we are fully capable and ready to do with just our minds. And so a quantum computer is tuning into the potentials. Now, we know scientifically for a fact that a human being, when you put a brainwave reader on a person and you start to show them images, the human being's brainwave fires off the image before it actually is shown to the person. So that tells us that we can see into the future. That is a scientific fact, and it is known. So when we start to tune in, we realize, okay, we can see into the future, and all of this information, the quantum computer is taking everything and giving us the potentials. This is what the star people see. They look through either their technological, depending on the race, they either look through the computer system, or they can tune right into their own Akashic records, and they could tune into their own timelines, and they could see what they're in alignment with your current timeline. That's how that works. They have to be in alignment. This is why they utilize the technology a lot, because the technology is the actual collective consciousness grid. It's not just the individual and what they're in alignment with. Hopefully that makes sense. I kind of understand it. And so when we start to recognize and realize, oh, okay, we can see into the potentials, the potential manifestations. So a supercomputer is going to look at all of the information, which, guess what? We got Chat GPT. So all the people putting all the information into the World Wide Web and Chat GPT is basically generating a quantum computer. Genius, right? Because now all of a sudden you can start asking the GPT, hey, how do I get this and this and this? And then all of a sudden, the thing is going to start to give you information. Now, yes, I am doing the shadow work session right after the live at 8:30 p.m. What time is it? Oh, we still have a half hour. Any questions? Send your questions in. I'm reading a book about a healer who says a lot of our trauma starts in the birth and gestation. Yes, that's true. But there's also a lot of trauma that is encoded from the mother in her DNA, and it automatically gets passed down to the child in the DNA. And then all of a sudden, it's the child also gets encoded from every single emotion from the mother. You know, there's also information out there that you can actually take the mother, or let's say you have a 20-year-old female. You take her information encoded in her blood, you can see how many babies she's going to have. It's all already in the blood. And then it goes 10 levels deeper, because then you can even start to pull apart and you can see who she's going to have children with. So that's quantum computer, but that's taking it on a biological level. And so your biological form, it already knows the timeline that you're on. Now, that's not to say that that is in full control, because we are divine creators. And let's say we switched our frequency, we could potentially shift through time and space and shift the timeline we're on, which could potentially clear the DNA. This is how we start to clear the ancestral karma. So we go inside, we start to relieve all of the karma, the density, the shades, and then all of a sudden it shifts something. That's the same exact thing as accessing the nexus. Holding that love-based emotion, it puts you into a higher frequency range, which makes changes. Now, I've seen changes to the simulation. I've had instantaneous manifestations. I've seen buildings appear that are old and they didn't belong there. I had walked that path a million times, and then all of a sudden they're just there. So when we start to see changes, or, you know, these are more or less timeline convergences as well as instantaneous manifestations. So let's say, for an example, you need a gas station. Then all of a sudden one will just pop up along your path because you're in alignment with it. And so the hologram reorganizes itself to what you need. This is also how you know that you're in a very high frequency, because all of a sudden the things that you need will just land in your lap. Now, this is no different, because the pyramids, the mountains, we're told that, oh, we're going to move mountains one day. That's true, because what's actually happening is that we are energetically casting constantly. And so whether we're doing it aware or we're just not aware of it, it's happening automatically either way. So when we sit there and we say we need a gas station, and a gas station magically pops up right along your path, and you know for a fact that you've never seen that before, that's very similar to a deja vu. A deja vu is just a blip in the memory grid, because you're making an instantaneous timeline adjustment. That's how this whole system works. It really is quite genius when you look at it. So beautiful. Let me take a sip. If I hear DNA from mom's triggered trauma, how can I heal her too? Well, that's the thing. And so we heal the energetics for the entire family lineage. So the second that there's one person who breaks the cycle, I've done that. I've been the black sheep. I've broken a ton of cycles from my family that I was born to on this earth. And so the second that we break the cycle, it changes the energetics of the entire family, which allows all of the other family members to say, well, that person did it, I could do it too. And then they would just have to start making the steps to do it. You know, the hardest part of breaking any cycle is choosing to do it. It's not actually doing it, because the second that you've chosen, you've made up your mind, the steps fall naturally in alignment. And so you just get it done because you chose. Most times people have to get to a point, a breaking point, or a rock bottom. When a rock bottom doesn't necessarily have to be like with drinking. It can also be like losing your house, losing your car, having to walk. That's a rock bottom. You have to start from scratch. So whenever we start to see things like that, it really means that we were doing something that was not in alignment with who we were meant to become. And so now that we are aware of the signs and synchronicities, we dive in, we do the shadow work. We go again, we do more shadow work, we heal. And we always want to watch our behavior patterns. So it's just like the cursing. What are some steps? What are some things I can clean up so that my life and my body runs happier? It doesn't have to be spotless and perfect. Whatever it is that you can change to just make you happier, that's what you want to do. And you want to also take it from the now moment. And so time and space is an illusion. So whatever you did this morning, it's that's it. You can actually change it actually because it's fluid in its nature. And so you can go into a meditation, and if there's something about your life that you really, really, really don't like, you can start to change your emotional frequency to whatever event it was that you didn't like. That's going to transmutate the energetic behind it, which then in turn is going to allow you to vibrationally be in alignment with a different timeline. Beautiful. Okay, let's see. Okay, so songs manifest faster. Now, the star people have told me 3 tones. It's the I Love You song. I've been singing it to my kid for years, and I had no idea it was a channeling by the star people. But they said, anyone who's sick, you need to do this. I love you. And so the 3 tones actually start to activate your pineal gland, your heart chakra, and your solar plexus. When we start to activate these 3 chakras, it brings more energy into the grids, which then in turn allows for a complete rebalancing to come. Now, I always used to hum it to my kids when I was rocking them to sleep. And then I used to go back into the heart chakra with a double tap on it. So these are things that we want to do, because when you start humming and singing, the singing manifests things much faster than anything that you're speaking. So let's say, for an example, you guys generate a song, and that song is whatever it is that you want to manifest. It doesn't really matter what it is. Pick the wildest and craziest things and then sing the song and say that you already have it, but do it in a song, and then just make a little note of how quickly it came to you. You should try and do it first with something that you know you can achieve, and just keep singing it over and over again. So I am healthy, sing that to your body. I am happy, sing that. It encodes the biological frequency at a higher rate. So it's guaranteed to work. Now, releasing the physical reality is also key, because anytime that we are holding resistance is kind of like tension and tightness. And so if we're trying to manifest something, we're always told you have to be okay if it doesn't come. Right? So what is that? It's releasing resistance. Now, many times when we do walking meditations, the walking meditations is like, it's releasing resistance. It's okay. I'm just going to keep walking. I'm going to relax my body. I'm just going to allow my body to glide over the land. And then it puts you into that zone of daydream. When you're in that zone of daydream, it then allows you to start manifesting things that you wouldn't normally manifest. You can also see and experience contact and communication with angels or extraterrestrials or otherworldly beings, higher frequentials. Now, there is different types of protection that you can call upon. However, my personal way that I do things, I don't really call them protection unless I feel it's absolutely needed. Because the second that we tell the universe, oh, I need to be protected, the universe is going to reorganize itself so that you need to be protected. So I just try and have an open heart, and I just try and hold love-based emotions. Now, anytime that we start holding love-based emotions, it automatically puts us in a divine alignment. So I've seen this one too, in which you're always in the right place at the right time in order to experience higher frequential things. So when we start to come into that love, joy, and bliss and start following your highest passion, it basically is going to change or reorganize the simulation so that you're just not around any negativity. You'll be in the right place at the right time so that you'll avoid the trauma and the tragedy or any voids that are going to pull off. So that's how that works. It is truly a blessing. Now, levels inside and outside of the body, we discussed that. The levels inside, there's 3 different levels. These are connected to the Kundalini channels. So when we start doing meditations, we want to start sensing inside the body. Now, this is also wonderful for learning to do for astral projection, because astral projection, your light body pulls itself up, and then you have to just forget about everything because it pulls itself up. And then all of a sudden, when everything is asleep, your entire body does its thing. And then your light body will push out all of the chakras. It just pulls itself out the front. So certain teachings and techniques may tell you to try and concentrate on one chakra or another. Now, I know the higher chakras, it's a higher frequency, so you definitely don't want to project out one of the lower chakras. But in my personal experience, the light body just bam came right out, and there was no thinking about any chakra system. It just did what it wanted to do. It was totally by accident, but I've done it multiple times. So when we start to focus on astral projection, it's wild. You can fly. I went into the earth and I saw the fire beings. So there's beings who look like lava, and then they had flames all over them, and it looked like lava down there. So it was wild. It was terrifying for me at the moment, but it was totally wild. I would do it again. And they saw me, because when I got down there, I was like, oh, they can't see me, to try and calm myself down. And the second I said that, the thing turned around and tried to grab me. So these things are real. Astral projection is very real. I would always, in that case, I would probably call upon a guide. So, but that's just my personal opinion. There are people on the planet who do astral projection daily. And so for anyone who's diving into that type of ability or extrasensory ability, I would definitely consult one of the astral projection people. So everybody has their own gifts that they have attunements to. And the people who have done the remote viewing and the astral projection billions of times, those are the people you want to get it from. Now, there's also dream walker shamans on the planet right now, too. I know there's many of them. So they also have the ability to project their consciousness into your dreams. And let's say, for an example, if you're not good at programming your dreams, the dream walker shaman will program it for you. And so they'll match you inside of your dream, and then they will start to make changes or modifications to your dream so that it manifests. Years ago, I had a dream in which I was controlling the weather, and that came true. And I've seen it. And I've also had dreams that I was able to move a coffee mug, but I was angry when I did it, and I haven't done that yet. But I have seen my Starman, and he moves coffee mugs all the time, and he's not angry. He's happy. So I know that there is a way to do it from a love-based emotion, which is what I always shoot for. I never want to fire off any extrasensory ability in anger. Even if it is easier, we want to always shoot for love, because that is going to heal all things. Have I seen the comics Dragons? No. Dragons are real, though. And so just think about the dragons as dinosaurs. It's the same thing. The T-Rex, we thought it was these tiny little hands. What if it's wings? And that makes more sense to me. What if it's like a giant chicken with teeth that eats meat? Who knows? We really don't know these things. Giants are real. There was a civilization that had giants. There was also ancient technology that was very high frequency. And so once again, this goes along with the yuga cycles. The consciousness raises, and then it starts to come back down. It raises again, then it comes back down. These are all cycle repeats that are happening on this planet. So the second that we become aware, okay, these are the cycle repeats, we really want to start diving into ourselves, because this is the time in which we're breaking the cycle. And this is breaking the cycle because there's so many star seeds that reincarnated onto the planet. So they said 46 or 47%, 47% they're saying of the population is starseed in its nature. This includes all the children. Every single child is starseed. Now, they did this because this was the way that they didn't have to override free will, because the second an extraterrestrial soul manifested or reincarnated onto this planet, they can make changes or modifications to the planet. So they didn't have to allow the species to raise its frequency on its own. They sent us here, and then there was a time in which I had to make the choice. The extraterrestrials, they contacted me and they were like, do you want to be a channel? And I was like, yes. And so that day, I actually changed the weather for about 45 minutes. And it was very rapid. So it was like sunshine, bam, it was sunny 5 seconds later. And then I called the rain, then it was rainy. Other people had witnessed this at the time. This was back in 2019. So real people are really having these experiences. Now, we can manifest things like rainbows, rain. If a location is having an issue generating rain, like let's say California was going through a drought, we would come together in a group, and then that group would do a group manifestation to will rain for California. Just an example. And so this is how the children of light, which is what we are, we have a rainbow body of light inside of us. So this is how we start to take control of the simulation. And when we start to realize that we are more powerful than any conspiracy out there, that's when we really start to make changes or modifications to the outside world. The first thing that usually happens during this process is the oceans and the environment gets cleaned up very rapidly. Because the second people can hold their hands and start humming and meditating and raising the frequency, and all of a sudden it's clean very, very rapidly. This is real. This is possible. Now, some people are generating orgone technologies, which are different types of little pyramids with, different layered materials, organic, inorganic materials. Then they put a little crystal and a little copper spiral inside of them. Now, what they're doing is they've taken these orgone generators and they've dropped them all in the oceans, right along Africa. There was a man who did that, and he said every time they would drop them around, the dolphins would come and play with them because the dolphins felt like they were a high frequency. It actually generates a vortex energetic, which then in turn gives a life-giving energy and starts to heal the body. Now, from my personal experiences with them, I know it has an effect on your emotion grid because I wore a very large pendant for years and my emotions were rock steady. The second I took it off, I felt like all my emotions had turned back on. So I do recommend giving it a break in between wearing it. But the orgone generators are very, very valuable to have, especially when we're utilizing the technology that we're using. And the technology may potentially be a lower frequency range. Yes, thank you, Jill. Send me some. And then I'll post it all online so everyone can see. If I heal, okay, yeah, we did that one. Any other questions? Let me see. Okay, reflections in people. So this is part of the ascension process too, is waking up to the fact that every single person is a reflection of an experience that we need to have in order to allow us to grow and evolve. That includes negative experiences that we may have with people. This is okay too. Unfortunately, when we have a negative experience, it's always something that's going to trigger us to learn and grow from. How are you guys going to behave to having the negative experience? How does it make your emotions fire off? And so if you're firing off a love-based emotion, that's a slam dunk because then you're breaking the cycle and then that experience no longer has to happen. Every single experience is magnetically drawn into your reality. Every single one. Now, we take a look at people who are in extreme low frequency and the same thing keeps happening over and over and over to them. This is how the system works. This is just a holographic simulation, and this is how your energetic grids work. And then it starts a process, a cycle repeat. That's okay too. The second that we start to handle all experiences with loving and compassion and kindness and truth is so incredibly important as per the star people, because they've told me the frequency of truth is very strong. Whereas if you lie, it's kind of like a curse word to them. And so now when someone curses, it's like, oh, it really doesn't feel good. Well, they can tell if something's a lie. So it's kind of like a curse word to them. Oh, they lied. They can feel it right away because it's a lower frequency. It's not the truth. So this is another part of ascension and evolution, is stepping in to have enough self-power to be able to speak not only your truth, but the truth to all people. And so many times as a human, we think, well, it's a little white lie. You're going to tell someone that they look good, even if you think it's like crazy. We all do these things. But what the star people are saying is we want to try and use different wording so that we can say, oh, I don't have to answer, right? Because you don't want to be putting the negative polarity out there. Now, if we lie, it's so funny how this works. The second that you spit one lie out, 10 lies are coming right back at you. And this happens nonstop. You could feel it because the second that you fire up your empathy abilities, you could feel when people are lying to you. This is also, we have a truth detector inside the body. So whenever you get the chills, it means someone is telling you the truth. Now, the second that you start always telling the truth, people can feel it. They can feel it right away in their hearts. It's like they know, oh, that person's a real deal. That's because you can feel like they never lie. So it's very important each and every one of us start to really have a look at our values and what we stand for. Now, this is something I personally am going through too. This is not really going through. I'm becoming enlightened to, is the fact that every microsecond of my life is under observation by the extraterrestrials, which is okay because I have my starman. He's my husband. It's wonderful. But that basically means that they can see every microsecond of my life. So they can see every microsecond of your life too. And they know who all you guys are. It's so much fun. So you guys should really try and be on like your best behavior, right? And then just because they're watching every single one of us. So it kind of changes the way that we behave. You behave a certain way in private compared to public. So definitely just be aware of that, because it changes the game a lot. Because the second that we realize this, it's like, okay, best behavior, very professional, even on my down times. So it's wonderful. The reflections in people, though, absolutely amazing. I personally have seen certain types of reflections in which there was a high solar energetic day. And while I was talking to the person, all of the words, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that I was talking to them, they were saying the exact same thing back at me. And so it was in that moment, I was 1,000% positive we're in a hologram. There's no other getting around that. It was like, oh man, I really am talking to myself. So when we start to go through the higher solar energetic days, we're all going to be going through this as well, where you're just going to know. You're looking at your friend and you're like, oh, I'm talking to myself. There's only one consciousness here. This is how unity consciousness becomes activated, though. So we really can't have any fear to it. You just have to allow it, release resistance, and just go with the flow and just be at peace with what is. So people's binary coding, very, very, very important. Now, we have polarities in experiences. So, for example, you have to play the bad guy and then you have to play the good guy. And this is why they said all people are neither bad nor good. They're neutral, because any of us can be pushed into one or the other. And so many times you'll see good people and then they'll make a judgment call and do something that we may consider bad, but they did it because their morals told them that it was the right thing to do. So were they a bad person? No. That was just where their morals were. There's a lot of gray areas here. So a lot of times this happens where somebody will experience something and then their binary codex is programmed that they must experience the exact opposite. So when we start to know what each and every one of the people around us are programmed with, it makes us very consciously aware. Because if you know someone is programmed with something or to do something that's going to be catastrophic for your life, it kind of puts you on a guard to a degree. So knowing the experiences that every person in your top circle has been through is key, because whatever experience you guys walk through, you have to see it by both polarities. So let me think of, we'll take the car accident because that's the first one that comes to my mind. So let's say you get into a car accident and then you witness a car accident. You're seeing both polarities. You're seeing it from both perspectives. This is how this whole system works. Be very aware of what other people and what polarities they are holding. What cycle repeats are they running? This is all, we got to pull apart a person's life and start to see if they're really in alignment with us. And then not only that, but it's more of a frequency. When we start to tune into people, we're magnetically drawn to our primary people. So if someone is running an experiential in a certain polarity, how does that reflect off of us? Why did we manifest someone with that polarity and that experience? Many times it's because there's an experience inside of us that we needed to see the polarity run through that other person. And this is how the whole story fits together. So the second that you're consciously aware of your trials and tribulations, you have a look at the people around you, because this is also going to show you that the people around you are sheer reflections of what's coming from inside of yourself. Yeah. Dating just got even more complex is 1,000% correct. 1,000%. And so, you have to know and you have to feel and you have to know, when I was younger, I was with people and I had no idea. I've always been I hate to use the word sheltered, but I had no idea the cycles and the experiences that they were running. I was always sheltered from that. And so it's wild, right? So sometimes you don't know. And it's just like you find out 10 years later and you're like, oh, Jesus, really? It's crazy. Yeah. Okay. Help me to get us to officially make first contact status with our creator, Seraphim, and save the planet. Please and thank you. So we're already in first contact, because the star people know exactly who each and every one of you guys are. Now, once again, I've had real contact with the Arcturians. I have a starman. He's my husband. They've come down last year in July and they've utilized high technology to clear my energetics, because I was going to manifest something tragic. And so they did a full healing on me. It took about 4 days time. Now they've removed a ton of attachments. That would took 4 days, and they cleared my energetics. When they utilized the technology would levitate me off of my bed. And so it's undeniable the experiences I've had with them. And then not only that, but my inner circle, the people I talk to, when we have our day-to-day conversations of like, oh, me and my Starman did X, Y, and Z, and they're like, I can't believe you have that relationship, because he's a real person. He's real. He's just like having a human relationship. The only difference is I talk to him psionically. Now, once again, he can move my body. He can make gurgles in my stomach. He can make me burp. There's different biological things that we can't control as human beings. He can flip a switch and make it happen instantly. When I went through certain healings, they also triggered hormone responses that removed all of my pain in my body. And so that's not something that I had teeth removed. And so he shut it down so I didn't have any pain. Thank God, right? And so it's undeniable the experiences I've had. I've also seen their ship. And so they flew over my backyard, and for an extended period of time, they were there for a while. That night that happened, I was hysterical. So I was crying. The world was ending, right? And then they showed up. So it really is wild and amazing, but it's also responsibility, because this is a lot of knowledge. This is a lot of information that has been gifted to me. So it's part of my responsibility to share it with each and every person who wants it. That's why I'm putting the book out this year. So I just really have to get it edited, and then it's every single post I've ever written on Facebook. And so if you guys have the time to scroll down the Facebook, Tree of Life Organization on Facebook, or the Danielle Lipton profile, all of my posts are in there. Also, we have a group on Facebook called Star People Group. That one's amazing because there's a chat box for that. But I also do the WhatsApp. And so the WhatsApp, it's a one-way where I can text you guys and let you know I'm going live, because for some reason, Facebook doesn't notify people. So if you guys want, you have to go to Star People Group, sign up, and then the WhatsApp link is in there in the pinned. So you guys can come and then be, with us while we do our lives. The lives I normally do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then after at 8:30, we do a complimentary shadow work session on a Zoom. Anyone who wants to come to the shadow work session, it is tonight at 8:30. Send me a message at daniellelipton.com. And then I'll send you the Zoom link. This way you guys can come. So it really is, it's wonderful. And it truly is my blessing to be here to do this type of work for you guys and to really help you guys through your evolutionary processes. I do offer private sessions. I do also do attachment removals for people. That's wild and amazing, because the second you really dive in deep, start removing the attachments, you'll learn how to do it on your own, but it's a very clean, energetic feeling after you're done with it. Now, of course, it depends on the level of the densities and the attachments that you have, but it's always a good idea to get it done. Now, I also offer private ascension sessions. So whatever information the star people want to give to you guys in order to help you to evolve, it usually takes your consciousness and puts it in the next brick. So can I meditate to get the star people to help heal me? Yes. And you can actually ask them to do an energetic clearing on you now or after the live. Like I said, they're watching everybody here. And it doesn't matter if you're live or if the live is a replay. They're still watching. They still know who you guys are. This is how the high technology works. But they're also psionic beings. And so the star people are multiple races. They are not just one. The Andromedans, the Lyrians, the Fae actually communicate with them. There's religious people. The Mary Magdalene Collective steps forward. We have archangels that step forward. So all of these beings work together. I had no idea. I always thought it was only the Arcturians because my Starman, but it's a whole range of beings. They all work together in order to really help the planet to evolve. There's also Indian gods, Ganesh, Krishna, Vishnu. All of these people have also come to me and contacted me when I was going through my healings and things. So, the levels of our guides, they always shift. And this is what I don't think anyone really knows. But when we are at a certain brick of consciousness, we're going to have a certain level of guides or star family that shows up for us. But then we go through the shadow work and we raise our frequency, and then it's like a total different brick of guides show up for us again. So we constantly go through these different levels, and then different people show up. This is how the system works. Now, my Starman, he's always with me 24/7, but I can even feel when I get, especially the channeling that we just did was very, very high frequency. So we have higher frequential beings that came, and I could feel them inside my crown chakra. It feels like it's an energy in there. And so, but you guys can feel it too, because every time you listen, there's different DNA activations and different higher frequential frequencies that come in, and it starts to attune your energetic grids whenever I channel them. So yeah, it's just beautiful. So come to the shadow work. We are hosting it tonight, 8:30. Yeah, thank you guys so incredibly much for coming. And you guys have a wonderful night. Many, many love and blessings. And thank you, Star People. Okay. Oh.